Hello, and welcome to the Green Island podcast. I'm Bernard Sheehan, joined by my novel partner here, James Sheehan. We are the co authors of Hard Border, the first in the Green Island novel series. Thanks for joining. We're going to do a little bit of a departure tonight, James. Not really talking that much about Ireland, but as we're recording this, it's kind of Saturday slash Sunday into the day before Monday's eclipse here on the 8th of April, which is going to be kind of going right through the swath of the U.S. I think it might touch Ireland a little bit, but people are losing their minds. It's pretty incredible to kind of see it happen. So we thought we would go off track here a little bit, talk it through, because not only is that going on, there's a lot of other kind of secondhand things too. So it's if nothing else, it's kind of interesting to see this coming together. And I know in the States people are moving around and getting into locations, especially down in Texas, because it's going to hit some major population centers there. So I don't know if, you've heard much about it kind of from your vantage point, or if it's being talked about, you're kind of more the international traveler, but if that's out there from your perspective.
Well, you know me. I mean, this is my bread and butter. I love this stuff, so that's great. And I think with the tie-in with Ireland is like, the Druids and the occult center of the world, i.e., Ireland, and even in the hard border background that everybody be looking at if they watch this podcast. I mean, the eclipse is a big deal for them, and this is awesome. Like, let's see what happens. I think it's going to be great. I was kind of itching, thinking we were going to talk about Conor McGregor and the what's called, but I completely forgot about the eclipse. Like it's tomorrow. This world could end. This could be so let's just see what happens. So I think it justifies our call because we won't have time to do another one before the eclipse, but maybe we'll have part two after the eclipse and what happened and stuff
Yep.
like that. But I'm kind of excited. So I was even thinking, I'm like, okay, well, thank God, at least we're kind of, a bit away, or like my family will be together. So I'm like, I don't have to worry about like, my wife at the store and everything shuts down. And then I got to get to her like the end of the world movies we all watch. I
Right.
watched Greenland the other day and I'm like, oh no. So just for the giggles, but we'll see what happens. But I'm kind of think it'll be cool to see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big shadow. It's going to be going across. I'm looking at it here that it's going to hit kind of Austin, Dallas, Little Rock. Might see a little bit of it. Indianapolis. So it's kind of going, from the south, southwest up through the northwest, and I think it will clip a little bit of Ireland and Scotland as well on the other side. So it's going to be global, which will be interesting to kind of see. And it's been a couple years since the last one. I think that people are like, whoa, this is pretty cool because it is hitting such population centers. And some of the stuff too, like you were saying, like what's this gonna do is obviously, throughout mythology and everything else, anytime there's like an eclipse coming or a comet or something like that, people are afraid that, hey, that's a bad omen. This thing's gonna go sideways. So I think that is innate in people. So it's interesting to see how everyone's reacting and getting prepped for it, because it's been coming, people have been talking about for weeks and weeks, and now it's just a day or two away. So here it is. And, especially for, as you said, like the Druids and all these folks out there who, really kind of rely on, if you like, whether it's astrological signs or if it's kind of the winter and summer kind of solstice and all of that stuff, and Stonehenge, those type of folks. So it's it definitely ties in with that, certainly with any type of kind of sign out there that people are looking at, like, huh, is this going to be good, or is this going to be bad, or is it just going to be something that doesn't mean anything at all?
Well, the Christians are doing it as well. We should be in the rapture by now. So I mean, it's
There you go. Yeah, for sure. And
April
that's
2024, it's starting. And like all the telltale signs are there. Like Russia pulled up to the border of Israel like the other day. And like the signs are there if you even watch it. And thank God for YouTube. I know it's pretty much the most evil thing on earth, including Google, but I mean, at least you can watch and be educated on what people are saying about the rapture and why, how the time all like the time comes crazy. It's and even like the third message of Fatima, which is a that they kept a secret for like the JFK files for like 70 years. It's coming out now where it's like the Pope, I'm Catholic, our Pope will be the last Pope. So that's kind of not too good because the guy's like probably on his
yeah,
deathbed right
right.
now. So kind of all this stuff, the time comes together pretty meticulously. These guys have broken down and it's now, now or never kind of thing. So um, I kind of think the way things are all turning that it seems like it's now. So I don't know what about the eclipse, but it could be foretelling because you see all the cicadas are coming out in
They
America too,
sure
all the
are.
bugs,
Oh yeah,
like
it's a
first time in
double.
history to, or like
It's
a
a
double. That's
it's
it
a
in like
double hit.
250 years or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
then I don't know if you saw that in Saudi as well, like probably 6 months ago. They came out of nowhere and went right over Mecca, like when they'd go around that tower that with the black stone in it,
Mm-hmm.
and they were just bam, like these cicadas. Not even cicada. I think it was even like maybe like oh, it's
Straight up
crazy.
locust.
It was crazy. Straight up locusts, like covered the whole place. I put a video up on it, and it's like, wow. And it was some other kind of day that something was due. So, and like we had the earthquake in Taiwan, and so I think be prepared. Don't be left caught off guard because it's better to be prepared, and it's fun to watch.
Well,
Like who
not
cares? It's going to happen anyway.
well. That's the thing. Some of the other indications out there, like you talked about the earthquake in Taiwan, which was really significant, but there were a couple of earthquakes in New York the other day. So, and they really rattled. You know, let's put it this way: it's not every day that New York gets hit with an earthquake. So people are like, "What the heck?" I don't think it did little to any damage, but it still was something of a wake up call. And I think what you had touched on really, like, okay, at the end of the day, it's a big shadow, but there's a lot of other things going on in the world that people could use an excuse or could click things off. Russia and Ukraine, that's not going away. Stuff that's going on with Israel and in Gaza, that's not going away. So this is, if not an excuse, maybe a potential to ramp things up even higher than they have been. So it's definitely something to pay attention to, but it's also some of this other stuff that's going on out there. Like you'd mentioned Russia being on the Israel border, but you also have, some of this other stuff like the CERN collider that people have been suspicious of and like, what the heck is going on there? They're going to be ramping that back up and flipping the switch to turn that on Monday, the 8th. So it's like, why would you guys do this and kind of feed into some of this stuff, or is that by design too? Because we know for a fact that they had some weird ass satanic if you like some kind of
The
I don't
opening
even. Yeah,
ceremony,
the opening
right?
ceremony. That's exactly where I was going for. It was like just some kind of
It-
so, and it
yeah,
was a
it was
big
all kind of
long.
that.
It was a big long thing before they ever started that. So what's going on there? I think a lot of stuff is like you mentioned. We're Catholic, so we have some of that Catholic prophecy that's here, as whether it's Fatima, but also this Pope. He's really, let's put it this way, he's not the greatest. I think we can all
He's
agree
not
with
even close to the greatest. He's the
that.
worst.
He's the
Like,
worst.
let's be honest. He should be thrown out on his ear, and called like and banished. Like, you just don't do that. Yeah, I'm sorry, but like the rules are the rules. It's
Yeah.
just crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Um,
But, but
it-
there he is doing his stuff. And a lot of the things that happened kind of I know obviously with our hosts here, we can't really talk about what happened in 2020. But that's not necessarily the end of it. Here we are 4 years later, and there's stuff that's also kicking off. So it's again, so
Huge.
yeah, it's
Biggest
huge.
election season in the history of the
Yeah.
world.
Yep.
So, and
Exactly.
who knows what's going to happen? CIA can't be everywhere, but maybe they can. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
It's going to be absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
What are they going to do with Trump? You know,
Yeah.
JFK. Like there's a lot of stuff going on. I know Ireland, you can see it, but they're all retreating. Like Simon Coveney left, just tying it back to Ireland and stuff.
Yep.
But I know we're talking about the eclipse, but it seems like a lot of stuff is shifting. Bunkers being built for billionaires, or they're buying a boat to get to some bunker that's offshore.
Yep.
And I'd rather learn from now trusted sources instead of like trusted companies, where it's just like, oh, I'd rather listen to Joe Rogan or something like that, where it's like, well, he's going to at least have people on that I somewhat trust, that what they're saying is at least based on something they've tried to discover or kind of went through a scientific method, or that you have. But I mean, the other guys are just like, don't look there and don't think about it and don't talk about it. It's just like ridiculous. It's like, so I want to learn about giants if they're in caves that go between the worlds. So
Well, it's funny that you bring that up,
see.
though. I actually just listened to like a snippet of a podcast talking about Fatima, and they said, you look at people like, okay, like a Joe Rogan or or even like a Tucker Carlson, and Russell Brand, all these people kind of talking about Christianity maybe a little bit more than they were before. And you listen to them, but they're really just normal people. They're not tied to the government, because if they were tied to the government, you would have no interest in them at all, because you know that the government are nothing but a bunch of liars, and everything they do has an agenda. So it's like you take that to the next level with the Seers and Fatima. They were just little kids, and they were powerless. So you kind of had to believe them. If maybe you don't, but at the same time, it's not like they were a big government entity coming along. And in fact, the government was trying to shut them down, shut them up, threw them in jail, and
And that's how God works, right?
yep,
Like
exactly,
he goes for the most easiest ones that like you can't deny them,
right,
Because I was like, listen, I was listening to Ben Shapiro talk with this Christian guy, Dr. So and so, and they were talking about Christ, and it was all good or whatever. But just to hear Ben Shapiro say, well, like he was a guy who started an uprising and he deserved to die. That's how they look at Christ. And it's like, okay, because these discussions are coming out a lot if you look at YouTube and stuff like that. But there's a lot of like messages out there. It's interesting, of what happens.
I think that's disingenuous on Ben Shapiro's part. I can't read his mind, but he knows better, and he knows he should really know history better, and he should know Jewish history better to know that they even admitted, like, here was a guy, we took him out. The Romans had no problem with him. We as Jewish people may have seen him as a revolutionary, because they were saying, like Hosanna, and that's like, oh, that's what you say for when the king is around. That's like a cry out for the king. So they looked at him as a threat. That doesn't mean the Romans did. They convinced him that and even in their own writings in the Talmud, they own up to that and say, yeah, we took this guy out. So for him
Well,
to
he didn't
say,
get pushback from the Christian guy, but I think the Christian guy wanted more to be on his side to kind of get him to realize more about like that Jesus resurrection was real and there's witnesses to that, rather than fighting about that did Jesus start a revolt.
right, okay,
Because and I was pretty shocked by that, because I didn't think that's what the Jewish people believed. But taking Ben Shapiro, that seems like he's somewhat, I don't have time to learn religions, but I was kind of like, oh, well, they thought Jesus started revolt. I mean, not from my readings and
nope,
that I thought it was pretty peaceful. So to have that almost like perpetrated throughout the last 5,000 or 3,000 or 2,000 years was, I was kind of taken back, because again, he's learned. So, and I don't have time to learn other people's religions. But
no, I
on
hear
that
you.
regard, then now you're looking at the red heifers and the third temple going up in Israel right now, and
Mhm.
Israel like starting the war with Iran. Like starting now, they bombed just recently, like a couple days ago. So they're all gearing up for like this war that's supposed to be prophesized, the Mobad Gobad war or whatever it is. I'll put something up on it, but I mean it's like the pieces are falling together. Again, Russia showing up at the doorstep now. Turkey's there, nuclear weapons might be flying soon. So be prepared. It's all I'm saying. I mean, I don't know, but I'm gonna be prepared. My Chef Boyardee and stuff.
Well, that's the thing with Russia too, is just like, the whole idea was we don't get into a war with Russia directly because then, now you've got nukes on both sides. And you keep hearing, you brought it up last time with regards to France. Macron he's saber rattling and he wants to get into it with Russia. And it's just like, well, you've got nukes and they've got nukes. So that takes out Europe, and obviously once that happens, it's the whole place is up for grabs. So I don't really, again, they're not turning down the volume or turning
The
down
world
the heat.
changes then.
Yeah,
The world changes
yeah,
then. The way
yeah.
we live, everything we know is done, and something new takes its place, and there's going to be a lot of suffering in between.
Right.
That's as
Exactly.
simple as that.
That's it. That's it. And they don't care because they don't think it's going to happen to them, but it can and it
Yeah,
will.
but they also want the souls of the people that fucking do whatever they're going to do during that time to survive, you know?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Like, I mean, it's just so freaking evil now that they want this so that, like, because again, if you believe the rapture, the devil's done at that point. So at this point, he needs as many souls as he can before he leaves, is the theory. And causing mayhem and whatever across the world is not a bad way to get as many souls as you need, because everybody screws over themselves. I mean, we've just been through it in Ireland and everywhere. Like there's no loyalty anymore. It's crazy in
But it
business. It's absolutely nuts.
but it does seem
There's no
like
loyalty. It's like,
yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it does seem like there's a clock ticking, right? That people don't care because they're not looking long term anymore. Everything is being done right now for the if you like, the ability to get something done sooner rather than later, because nothing's going to happen. You don't really. I find this really interesting.
Well, Bern, the demon inside them is ramping them because if you listen to
Right.
Father Reppinger, he pretty much says they know their time is up.
Yeah.
And he's not saying that like the next, the rapture not coming. He's certainly not saying that. And he's certainly not saying there's not going to be and most likely, and he's actually kind of I saw something. I don't listen to him a lot of times, but I did listen to that, and he's like, no, they're like they know their time's up. And if you listen to like the 7 years of tribulation and go through all that, it is kind of it's up.
Yeah. So now they're ramping everything up to
What that looks
11.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
a
So
hundred percent,
it's like, okay,
100%.
we maybe the original plan might have been over the next 25 years to do X, Y, and Z. We've got 3 years now, or 4 years, 5 years. So we've got to put the pedal to the metal and make these things happen. Because look at it. I mean, even from the perspective of hard border, we wrote that and got it out, and we're like, I mean, the amount that's happened since then has been insane. So it's like stuff that we had talked about and that we had unveiled, if you will, is almost like common knowledge now. I mean, and we talked
We
last
got
week.
2 books already ready to go
Yeah,
because
yeah,
like it's already filled itself. We
yep,
just got to hope
yeah. But
a
it's
better
it's
store.
but it's just crazy with the amount of things that are going on right now. So I think this was a good idea to get together here, take a pause on, Ireland specific, especially Ireland politics, talk about some of these things in advance of the eclipse. One of the things before I let you go was I saw somewhere that they were shooting rockets up to the eclipse, something goofy. I'm like, what is going on? Like NASA was doing it. So I don't know what that's about, but between that, the CERN collider, and, you know, having war.
We spend like let's draw this out. Let's draw this out as much as we can, just for a minute. Let's not turn it
Yep.
off, right? Like I want to talk about CERN real quick
Okay.
and the rockets because like that movie where Leonardo DiCaprio, Look Up, Don't Look Up or whatever. It's on
Yeah. Yeah.
Netflix.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was kind of like, so you can't trust that what I'm just going to be real short with these two topics
No, that's
that
fine.
like you can't trust what the government can tell you. They're like they could be putting it up to a comment that we have no idea. Like we only know so much,
Fair,
right?
fair
So,
point.
I mean, or it's maybe a rocket science experiment, which I'm giving it 99.9% that's the case. But I mean, there's something goofy going on, anyways, and it seems like who knows with the CERN collider is a different kettle of fish altogether. And yeah, that's having some funky stuff, reactions. Like they know that they're opening up something that's not supposed to be opened up, or
Yeah,
doing stuff they're not supposed to be doing. And they got that knowledge not from humans, I don't think, if that makes, that's my own, like, I think, if you, again, believe in kind of all that, the if I don't know, I
sure.
just think that they're messing with stuff that they did not earn, that they heard, from maybe these giants or whatever. But it's kind of all coming together. Like I see the Bible making a lot more sense now. With kind of what I see in the kind of the conspiracies and the giants, and like what I see in Ireland, and this even the band, all of them around the fire. Like these guys are billionaires and millionaires. They're not stupid. They probably know something we don't. And I think it's time it all comes out, as Cat Williams would say, 2024, it all comes out.
Yeah, and I think we can be even more plain. They talk about like quote unquote interdimensional beings that they've got contact with and all this stuff. I think from our perspective, we would just call those demons straight up, or former angels that are giving them, connecting with them and giving them knowledge because
And boom,
they,
exactly. And the
because they
angels
are,
were
they're,
given all the knowledge.
yeah,
The
they're,
angels were given all the knowledge, and
yep,
they're the ones who are telling them how to do this stuff, and they're just giving it to the guy because they're fallen. So, but they still have the knowledge,
yep,
like um, to do saucers and move quick and all that jazz,
sure.
or hypothetically.
Yep, exactly. And that's the thing is that they're smart as all get out and they don't have to, talk about like a video game existence. They can just be like, I want to be here and have a thought about it and they're there, like so they can move around, they can talk to whoever they want. You hear a lot of people taking psychedelic drugs to make contact with these beings. And, again, from our position, we would say that they're, apostate angels and who knows what they're telling them and guiding them to do. But it's like, hey guys, we guided you to make a ton load of money. So now go on and do this. Now it's payback time. We need you to do
Well,
X, Y, and Z.
yeah, my dad told me an interesting thing. He's like, any good idea or bad idea that you ever got came from a demon or an angel. Like, it's just because they live in a realm. Like, if you watch any scientist, modern day, like physicists and stuff, they say there's 10 dimensions. And they go through it. It's actually quite clever because some can move through time. Time is our barrier.
Mm-hmm.
But the other dimensions where they can kind of click and be here in time and kind of be around you from different, like how many dimensions they're into that 10th, where like, I would say God and everybody's at the very top dimensions, can move anywhere at any time. But it's a very cool kind of little clips of how the 12 dimensions work. And it all makes a lot of sense actually from a scientific standpoint, that it's like, oh, well, this, when you get to this dimension, you can move through time and stuff. So that's why I'm assuming with the demons, where they can't interact with us directly, but then they can kind of be around you so much that it influences you because they're at that dimension. That because remember I sent you that like clip about the army guys who are wearing the red glasses, the red
Yes.
tint that kind of,
Yeah.
and then
It's
they all start going sane because they start seeing, like, hypothetically looking into another dimension where the demons live, and they start shooting at the demons. They didn't know what the hell was going on. The demons didn't know what was going on because they'd never seen anybody like look directly at them and start shooting. And then they start coming out, and then the lieutenant put on like the glasses who's in charge of the copter, and he's like, yeah, but take them off. And like the demons were coming right after him. And I like, it was kind of, and they don't use those red tint glasses anymore
yeah.
in the army, which seems weird. But I mean, you can look it up on YouTube. This is all on YouTube. It's very fascinating. And I'm thinking it's more coming that way now, that we're going to uncover the next leap. And the world we live in today is not going to be what we lived, no more 80s, with
Yep.
Back to the Future and stuff, unfortunately, you know.
All right, man. How about we wrap that up and, we'll see each other on the other side.
Exactly. Yeah. I'll see and then we'll see how it went.
All right.
What happened?
Yep,
If
exactly.
our cell phones went down and everything. Good luck
Yep.
out there.
Yep. Everybody be careful out there, especially you, James, as family. I think we've got our marching orders. We know what to do in this situation, and hopefully we'll be able to be, again, kind of come out on the other side, and we can talk about it some more, and maybe talk about some Roadhouse next time. But in the meantime, this is great.
Well, I
Thank
think
you.
we laid a lot on the table that we don't have to always talk about Ireland. This is what Ireland influenced in us.
Yep.
We didn't learn this. We learned this by accident. No, we were forced to learn it of why people act this way, and it's a lot of it's not normal.
Yeah.
And so where
Agreed.
that if you want to learn more about it, read Hard Border.
Read
This is
Hard
where
Border.
we'll get there. Awesome,
Exactly.
bro. Well,
All right.
thanks for the call.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.